2, 1. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of On Beat Off Script, another album review. I'm joined here by, well, I guess I should say I'm Brandito. I'm joined here by Rose. Mel and Bob are both appertained doing, I don't know, wedding things or something.
Yeah. Who knows?
They're busy. So we are just gonna, make this a little bit more of a conscientious, intelligent conversation of On Beat Off Script. It's gonna be an interesting one. But the album that we're about to cover right now is All Is Love and Pain in the Mouse Parade by Of Monsters and Men. I gotta be honest, Of Monsters and Men, kind of a critical moment for me as a folk listener. That was it came out when I was in grade 11. That's when I was it hit me right. My Head is an Animal was one of those albums for me where I'm just this is a quintessential to my collection. It also came out around the same time as Mike Snow, and so Mike Snow was another one that I ended up diving all the way into, because it was just, there was a period of time, kids, when everybody was stomping and clapping and doing that over and over again, and it was artistic until everybody did it, till we all hated ourselves. Who is Of Monsters and Men? Let me tell you. Of Monsters and Men is an Icelandic indie folk band that's been active since 2010, consisting of lead singer and guitarist, and I'm so sorry to the Icelandic peeps. I'm going to butcher these multiple times over. Put in the comments, let me know how I do.
Yeah, rate us on how well it is.
Yeah. Consisting of lead singer and guitarist Nana Bryndís Hilmarsdóttir. Maybe. I'm hoping that worked. Singer and guitarist Reggie Dorhulsson. Guitarist Brynjar Leifsson. Drummer Arnar Rosenkrantz Hilmarsson. And bassist Christian Paul Christiansen. Which feels rude to call somebody Christian Christensen, essentially, is what that name would, I think, roughly translate to, if I'm not mistaken. Regardless, they came to be when Nana, who performed under the solo name Songbird at the time, asked for some friends to assist them with some performances in 2010, and they ended up appreciating the collaboration enough to form the band and competed in the Music Tilraunir, which was a battle of the band style competition in Iceland. A Seattle-based radio station had actually picked up the recording of their hit single Little Talks, entering the wave of the Mumford and Sons in the folk space of that time, led to that performance going mega viral before virality was really a thing, which was also kids, it was a weird time. All right, the internet just started being weird enough that things that had no reason to go as big as they did could go as big as they did. The single went on to reach the top 10 in the charts in multiple countries, reached number 20 on the Billboard's Hot 100. They then dropped their debut album, My Head is an Animal, in 2011, with the label Record Records. It's Record Records is the name of the label. Record Records. To strong popularity. Then they dropped their sophomore album, Beneath the Skin, in 2013, and had a brief hiatus before dropping their third studio album, Fever Dream, in 2019, which pushed them to number 1 on the Billboard Top Rock Albums. Turns out. I genuinely do not remember them dropping a third or a second album, if I'm being honest, but I wasn't paying that close of attention in that period of time. But All Is Love and Pain in the Mouse Parade is their fourth studio album. Concept album with some pretty typical Icelandic kind of absurdity in the way that they describe and say a lot of things, but in really emotional ways, touching on themes of love, pain, loneliness, those kind of subjects. Pretty typical of Monsters and Men, and just kind of 2010 folk stars in general. But yeah, we're going to go into the track by track. Before we do all of that, Rose, what were your thoughts of Monsters and Men before going into the album?
Okay, so their music came out. I don't know that I really heard or paid attention to it. I was real big band kid, got to college, and boy, I could not stop hearing it. And I became the biggest hater that has ever hated on any of their songs that got popular because I went to music school and I was a little pretentious little music kid, right? And everybody kept singing them, not well, all over, couldn't get away from them. Went to school in the mountains. Everybody decided that that was going to be what they did. So you try to go anywhere to like go to a party, somebody's doing these songs and they're not doing them well. The whole time, became a huge hater, sat down, saw that this was on the listening for this week, went, oh boy, this is going to be real good. It actually was, I was wrong, okay? I fully admit it, full chest, I was wrong. Little pretentious music snob me needs to take a back seat. I need to go back and re-listen. I was also 14 very excited. Ago. Yeah. There's a big difference, believe it or not, between 17, 18, and 31. So
huge. Pretty dramatic.
So yeah, I need to go back and listen. My bad, guys.
Like I said, I loved My Head is an Animal. I adored that album. Dirty Paws, Little Talks, Mountain Sounds, something in the Lion. Why can't I remember what it's called? Either way, honestly, I had that album on repeat when I was a kid. Like, I genuinely adored that album. It was one of those albums that, like I said, I could just keep going back to. It's, I was excited to see this. So, going into it, let's find out exactly how much they changed. Did they change it all? One might say, not very much. I don't know who will say that, but we'll find out here shortly. But, yeah, let's go into the track by track. It starts off with a track by the name of Television Love. Let's go ahead and give it a spin.
Walking with my favorite song. Look at me, I'm looking strong. Saw you at a traffic stop, waiting for the ground to drop. Slipping on the bathroom tiles, feeling tall and catching flies. Kinda getting over the shame. Someone give me Novocaine.
How'd you feel it started, Rose?
My first two comments, one, immediately, oh no, I think I was wrong. And then the second was, because it starts off, and I went, oh, it's very bright from the start. And then immediately after that, I went, oh, never mind. It works very well when everything else starts to layer in.
100%.
I thought it was really good. I think the lyrics especially are very poignant right now, especially with like the social media era where, you know, I mean, I've talked to even students where I've had to fuss at them in classroom settings for, hey, you've got to stop talking. And they just have told me like, oh, well, when I go home, it's no one talks to each other. Everyone's looking at their phones or looking at their like computer or their TV, and just the lyrics really kind of hit and kind of captured that a lot for me. So I thought that was really interesting. The song felt a little bit long, but I wasn't mad about it. Like, I was still having a really good time the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah, so it starts off with this really synthetic kind of soundscapey kind of vibe, which was, yeah, really interesting for the way that it was going to start off. Obviously, you get the really traditional folky stylings of Reggie to start everything off, and his vocals. It's a really pretty start to the album. You can tell this might border on some kind of more synth rocky vibes throughout the rest of the album, which I kind of appreciated a little bit. But yeah, Nana's vocals come in. One of the things that has always been one of their you know, pillars of what they do and an important part of their style is just the fact that like they harmonize and they bounce off of one another's voices really well. Like, that's
very well.
It's that's what they're known for, right? Is the back and forth between both their vocals just works out really nicely. You get this manic kind of drum which is really nice on that soundscape kind of backtrack. This song isn't the world's most exciting, but it does like hit all the notes that I was really expecting to see when I dove into an Of Monsters and Men album. So, you know what I mean? Like, this was in zero ways shocking, and that's going to be something that I say a lot over the next little bit. I'm like, okay, cool, like, it's this, and it's still that, and it's still that, and this is the same thing as back when 2011. when I had initially found it. It's still that. It just kind of always is going to be that, which we'll discuss how I feel about that by the time we get to the end of this. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at.
As I said,
But
the
this-
most shocking thing to me was just, oh, maybe I was wrong. Oh no.
Yeah. 100%. Especially if you hated that album, like I think that
Oh,
you'll
yeah.
end up you'll give it more credit than I think maybe it deserves, just because you're gonna be like, it's the
Like, my
surprise
bad,
factor.
guys. I'm sorry.
It's the surprise factor that you're just like, oh, I do actually like this. Okay, well now I've got to give it like a little bit more praise because I came into this expecting I hated it. Whereas for me, I'm like, I think I know what I'm gonna get, and I got exactly what I thought I was gonna get. And I'm like, okay, cool. So it is what it is. That takes us over to Dream Team, which we're gonna listen to right here. A little bit more of a fleshed out kind of piano spot for this one. Let's give it a spin.
Heavy head, don't look down. No, it's like you're wondering why you're wondering not to frown. Another bite, the neon light. I was hungry for a moment, but the moment came and went.
Yeah, like I said, it kind of asides from the soundscapiness that the opening track had, this feels a lot more present. You know, like it feels a lot more filled out, a lot more complete with it. Harmonies are really pretty. They do fall into the background, I found, of it, though, like a lot more, just because of how much more full the space sounds, which left me kind of wanting them to pull forward a little bit more. It's a nice track. And I'm going to say that lots. Like I said, it's kind of what I would have expected. A little bit lighter, a little bit happier than I think maybe I was expecting on this track specifically. But yeah.
Yeah, I put for me, I said, this was kind of closer to what I came in expecting. I didn't hate it, don't get me wrong, right?
Yeah.
But I was a little bit disappointed that it was sort of like the, sad lyrics, but it's a happy tune. And I said, maybe I'm being harsh on them just because I'm a little bit, at this point, I'm starting to get a little overtired of that. I did think that overall, I really liked the little like bright woodwinds that they had throughout in some different places, and the synth in the background. To me, this one just felt very flat. Like, it's a fine song. I just didn't have really any strong feelings about it.
Yeah, like I said, left a lot to be desired from me too. It was like, I think there's a lot more that you could have done here. You
Yeah.
didn't. It's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. That brings us into the actor, which I think was one of my top threes, and then it ended up like being bumped to like a fourth, based on some tracks that happened later on. But let's listen to the actor a little bit.
Is it enough that I'm playing the part? Oh my heart, what a horror show with the crooked noses. Odds are ever in my favor. Could that be my magnum opus? More like bullshit, my grandiose tumor.
I loved this one.
Yeah, it was
I
was
love
really
this.
solid.
Now, this is where I officially went, fuck, I've got to go back and listen. Like, I'm in trouble now.
Yeah, 100%. This is a really nice guitar spot, like kind of unplugged kind of moment to start everything off, which I really like. That's what I'm looking for usually when I'm listening to folk music to begin with. It's really simple, poetic songwriting that I really loved on this particular track. The build up with the piano and the drums, like kind of picking up steam as it goes through, just gives it this optimism that I think is really, really nice. It comes together really quaintly. I use the word quaint a lot in the album review of this as well, which can be a good thing and a bad thing in a lot of ways. The strong structure for this one was like a lot more indie pop too, which I kind of
Oh, yeah.
appreciated as well. it's a nice song. Nothing mind-blowing on it. It was one of my favorite tracks on this album. But sometimes, like, it can just be that. It doesn't have to be mind-blowing. Not everything has to be revolutionary. You know what I mean?
And I agree. I really like the vocals throughout this. I thought lyrically it was super interesting, and I liked a lot of how they used the tracking to really either emphasize some of the things that they were doing lyrically or vocally, or to kind of really add weight and like bridge some of these pauses that they kind of had. I thought it was really neat. I felt like it was kind of a very grounded tune across the board, and I think the production side really helped with that. It didn't feel too overproduced, which helps it feel a little bit more authentic with what they're saying and doing.
Yeah.
And I really like this one. I think it's great.
Yeah. No, it was like I said, one of my favorite tracks on the album. It was a really cool track. I was a fan.
Oh.
That takes us over to, well, it ended up still being in my top 3 by the time everything was all said and done, with Tuna in a Can. Weird name for an interesting song. Let's give it a listen.
And it all comes back around. I know that I'm not really trying. And it all comes back somehow. I know that I'm not really trying.
I really enjoyed this one. Genuinely, I loved this song. I love that it went back into that kind of Harmony Plus spot for them, because that's just who they are. It does feel a bit one-dimensional when it is always just the two of them harmonizing, kind of like consistently. But I loved the chorus on it. It's just so pleasantly put together, really nicely composed. The instrumental break on it, the drums with these kind of like breaky beats was so pleasant. I loved it. It avoids complexity entirely, but I think that's like really the point of the track. And I think that's something they do so well, is to like create so much by oversimplifying everything. And I like that just it's something that works so well, especially with folk as a genre.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Is can you do so much with so much less? It's I said I was going to use quaint a couple of times. It's quaintly emotional, and like I think like that's just hard to miss on this one. I really enjoyed this track.
For me, this is up there. It's not. I don't think it ended up being my top 3. I don't think it was. I think it was like right at like my midpoint on how I rated on the album. And I put a note before anyone fusses at me. The lyrics, we're talking about like family issues. I'm good right now. I've got enough of those.
Yeah.
You know, so I went, okay, maybe a little bit too close to home. Okay. The tuna in a can, like, lyric and name and everything, like, kind of threw me for a loop for a second, but I really was buying in by the end of it, just to the playfulness, but also kind of the simplicity that it brought into everything. I really loved the guitar. I thought the guitar was doing an awesome job, was really just kind of tying everything together.
Yeah.
And I did actually make a note. I said, I know that the song is 3 minutes long for its runtime, but it almost felt oddly short. Like, it almost, like, I almost could have used a little more, because I was just having a good time, you know?
I agree, 100%. Yeah, I like the tuna in can, like, reference, because it's just, like, it's kind of like, it feels definitionally, like, mundane.
Yeah.
But kind of, like, visceral at the same time, like, kind of gross, and I like that. It's just, like, grossly mundane, and I just, like, I appreciate that as, like, the imagery that it tries to create.
It just feels very, like, everybody, like, pretty much everybody has had tuna in a can, or it's been,
it's not like anybody's just like, I love that. No,
yeah.
like
I mean, you
really
know what?
feels
It's
that way.
certainly one of those, like, we've done it, right?
Yeah, 100%. That takes us over to Barefoot in the Snow, something that not everybody has done. Let's listen to this.
I wish I was happy. I wish I was dripping with joy. It's so hard to be happy. It's so hard to be dripping with joy.
for me, the vocals here for me were really lacking, really lackluster on this specific track. I almost would have had a better time had you just taken the vocals out, because I love what they're doing with the tracks here. Like this little syncopated, like, back and forth that's really kind of driving but not like frenetic. I love, there's like a couple of moments where it almost feels like it's going into like this little calypso sort of a feel, and then it circles back around, that I just really loved. I think part of why I have beef with the lyrics and the vocals here is just it is falling into that sad song or like sad lyrics, happy song kind of trope for me. But
That's folk, baby.
yeah.
That's just showbiz.
I love this song. If I could do nothing but listen to the backing vocals, sold. This would be like peak of the album for me, but it's not.
I didn't mind that part of it. Like I know you get this like really subtle rhythm, kind of makes like a nice pace. It's very gently stompy, which is the one thing that I get terrified about with folk music because of how much Mumford & Sons and Lumineers and like it just, I always get a little bit nervous. This doesn't quite actually like border into that, which I appreciated about it. So you still get a nice pace, like something with some energy that isn't, again, like hey ho type stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I like the gentle play back and forth of Nana and Reggie. I do think their vocals fall back into the background though, which is kind of part of the problem. So it kind of feels like more of an annoyance because it's not being brought out to be like the center of everything. But I mean, they're masters at the back and forth, and I appreciate it a lot. So like hearing that just gets me reminiscent about all of the other things that they've done. But the departure of the strings and keys I thought was a really cool moment when it's just Nana's voice for a little bit, which that's what I think is more frustrating about all the rest of the song. Is that when you take away that backtrack just briefly and you get that solo moment and you can just hear the vocals, that moment feels so much more special, and you can actually tell what's going on.
Diametrically opposed. Like the backing tracks are doing so much, and what they're doing is so interesting that when you put the vocals over it, it feels like an interruption to that. But when you take it away, the vocals are actually really kind of neat.
Neither of them are bad, but like them together just
to each other.
Yeah, 100%. I'm with you on that. This does kind of fall into that typical spot of just synthy electronica folk music that, again, kind of expected from them. Mike Snow, that kind of stuff. Nothing is like really all that changed from what I had anticipated. It's not a bad thing. It's going to make it tougher, honestly, for myself as a review. I'm probably going to end up hitting it a little bit tougher just because, like, it's the same thing that I remember from when I was, in grade 11. It doesn't feel like it's so far detached from that, and that is going to be tough to think 14 years later. And I'm like, I'm not that person anymore, and also, you guys shouldn't be either. Yeah. So, like, it's going to make what's ultimately a really pretty album probably mean that my review is going to be a little bit tough on it. But if you don't push people to, like, kind of make a change, then they end up just doing the same thing over and over again.
You being tough on an album review? Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, no
Call
doubt,
the press.
Hey. I'm usually pretty nice on... Actually, I've been way too nice on albums.
You're way nicer on albums than I.
The singles I absolutely destroy. But... that's just myself.
Yin and yang, baby.
Let's go into some Fruit Bat. What does Fruit Bat have to say?
I know something you don't know. Somehow in the dead of night, we're like Bunny and the Redhead. I need something you don't seem to need. Sweeter goodbye. I'm like a fruit bat hanging tight. I feel something you don't seem to feel. Somehow in the dead of night, we're like Bunny and the Red Tide.
It's an 8-minute track.
That was the first thing I wrote. All caps, 8 minutes, bro, don't piss me off.
Yeah. It's got
8
this
minutes
really,
is so long for a song. You cannot fuck with me in that. Like, you've got to do something.
it's a long track. You get this really gentle kind of piano that starts everything off. Predictably, we get the build up. It starts off small. It keeps getting bigger and bigger. They add in the percussions a minute in. It's gonna keep building. The songwriting is really nice. I like it's really pretty. It's really emotionally vulnerable. It's poetic. It's charming. It's musically simple again. The lyrics are done on this 8-minute song at 4 minutes. So you just get this giant instrumental for like 4 minutes. It's really cinematic, it's uplifting, but it's kind of a little bit too drawn out, in my opinion. It isn't creating a whole lot with the 4 minutes of space that was provided for us. It's just, it's a really pretty song, but it's just really dry for an 8-minute song.
Yeah, I mean, the start with that piano to me was so tantalizing, and then you get into it, and the lyrics are simple enough, but what they're doing and just kind of like the showmanship of it, I was really enjoying. Then the vocals drop out, and we have a moment where we hear like a very quiet brass band sort of a moment, and I'm like, oh, okay, like this is gonna be really interesting, and then that goes away, and there's like 3.5 minutes. And I went, okay, so show me something else amazing. Like, show me something that I'm really going to be into. 3 minutes are left, and there's nothing else really happening. And then nothing really happens. And I actually wrote, like, a mini novel, because I was irritated. I said, the use of the different instruments and timbres and the sounds in the last 15 seconds of the song, bro, you pissed me off, because why did we not do that kind of stuff and experiment with that through the whole thing?
Yeah.
It was pretty, but God, it could have been so cool, and I really wanted to see them experiment with that, because in the last 15 seconds, we're getting some saxophone, some clarinet, we're getting like all these new sounds and effects for 15 seconds. I sat here for 4 minutes, and you give me 15 seconds? Oh, when I get my hands on you.
Yeah, 100%. It was just
like, it felt like a lost opportunity, because what they were doing well, but if you can only do something for 4 minutes without changing or developing or introducing new material, and I just, like, at the end of it, I was like, I had a great time the first half, I had a great time the last 15 seconds, aside from the part where you pissed me off with the, like, 3 minutes in between where nothing really happened.
If this was a 6-minute song, I think it's perfect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm okay with the big gap still. Like
I'd
like
be
a minute
okay
and
with
a half
it for
of a gap.
Yeah, and that's
Would've
my
been
big
nice.
thing. You made half the song pretty much the same. And don't get me wrong, I enjoyed what you gave me. I wish you did more with it. I wish you took more of a risk artistically, musically there, to do an experiment with something, and you gave me that the last 15 seconds, and that to me felt almost like we were kind of scared, we thought we were going to get reamed for doing this throughout, so we're going to give it to you as a taste, so if you hate it, oh, well, it's just like the ending of the track, they were just doing something noodling around.
Yeah.
That was interesting. You were
That was the
right,
part that
give
we
me
wanted
more.
more
Yeah.
100%.
So if it was a shorter track, no complaints, right? It would have been a cool little moment, and I'd have moved on. But it's 8 minutes. Half of your song was that, you know?
Yep. Absolutely. I'm in the exact same agreement with you. What I did like was that last 15 minutes actually felt like it kind of played into the next track, which was Kamikaze, which I did actually really appreciate. So it actually kept that kind of aesthetic that we had to sit in for 4 minutes, and then gave us what I think was, again, one of my favorite tracks with Kamikaze. So let's give it a listen.
Kamikaze, why two words not always come so easily? When you think you know just what, kamikaze, while the conversations grow, you grind it, see, and you never know just what to say.
I love this song. Obviously the plan was kind of nice, because the part that I was waiting for just ended up being a different song after that 4 minute break. the cadencing and the song structure of this song was just really neat. It was so creative. It was really pleasant. Like you had these brokenly adjusted phrases as you were going through it, and I loved that part of it. The chorus is just really sweet and pleasant on it too. I enjoyed this one a lot. Like this one felt like a breakaway from everything else. Song structure didn't feel so linear. It felt really kind of disjointed, but with intention. The song itself was really pretty and played from the previous song and kind of made it its own. There was just a lot that I really enjoyed about this one, especially in the context of the album. I think by itself it doesn't have as much hold, but in the context of the album, this is a really neat song. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, this was a much more interesting tune. It was more upbeat, especially given the ending and the kind of long drawn out like void. Not that there was a lack of things, but just the transition into this really kind of felt like a kick up. I wasn't sure. I got really hyper focused, and part of this comes from all the stuff I've been doing in the band world and how nitpicky I've been there and stuff. The finger just like, it sounds like somebody's just going up to a piano and plinking out the exact melody that the vocal line is doing the whole time started to drive me a little bit nuts, because like you could do something else too, or like not just do like the exact notes. And it almost was like giving me, like, oh, we needed the notes to like stay on tune, and you've proven you don't, and I know that's not what you're doing, but it was just like consistent enough that I was like, I would love for you to do something else with the piano.
Interesting. Didn't catch that, but
I also, I don't know, this is me being, I guess, like a little bit like stick up my ass. The lyrics for me felt flatter on this one, and I think a lot of it I just got really stuck on, like, it seems like we're mostly using kamikaze to just rhyme things, and like, okay.
See, but I'm also not the big lyric guy. That's a Mel thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mel,
but I literally was like, I'm
going
to be the Mel in this moment. I don't, like, there's a lot of things you can rhyme with the word me, other than just the one word that we've chosen. So, like, I like this song. Don't get me wrong. I had a good time. It's not at the top of my list for the album just because I had those, like, minor annoyances, and they were throughout the song. But overall, like, it's a good song,
Yeah. I mean, they're all
good.
songs.
They're all fine, yeah. Like, there's nothing in here where I'm going, wow, this was an egregious choice that you made,
None of this. We'll save that for later.
Yeah.
The Towering Skyscraper at the End of the Road, though, is our next one. So let's go ahead and listen to this. How's the skyscraper doing?
So I carry on, pick another song, say my long goodbye, say my lullaby. There is nothing left, nothing cynical. The road is paved with good intention, talking heads on my bed. I am hoping that's how you remember me.
Again, it starts from this sort of, we're starting from a sad place, but we're feeling optimistic. It is feeling a bit repetitive at this point for me. I was like, okay, like, we're gonna keep going with that trope. It's just, this song was very much like just kind of a par for the course kind of track. It feels like you get another overdone outro as well on it. The song's pleasant enough. It's just, the album's starting to feel a little bit monotonous for me at this point. Feels like I'm kind of doing the same thing over and over and over again, which I've talked about how much I hate that. So, but what say you?
For me, I like the concept of this guitar almost being more present, kind of centered a little bit more on the track than we've seen it in the past. And I like the lyrics. I think it's kind of neat. It's a nice little fond retrospection with some grace for like yourself and every like thing that's happened about the past. I again got really hyper focused on something in the track and the mix. The hi-hat and shaker combination that they've got going the entire thing was a little too loud for me. It could have gone, like, we're talking like a click, maybe two down. so it wasn't as prevalent. Because after a while, all I was hearing was that tink tink over and over, and I'm like, it's a choice, like, you know, because I wanted to focus more on the vocals, but they're not bad vocalists. I want to hear more range from them, not just the harmony over and over. And I've liked hearing them individually too, and I want to see the interplay between the voices that isn't just the harmonizing. So when I got a little bit tired of that, I started listening too much to the tracking, and then all I was hearing was the hi-hat shaker. And so I wasn't as happy with the mix on this one, even though I thought that they did some interesting stuff on it. But
No,
it's
for
a
sure.
fine song.
I get that entirely. No, for me, like, yeah, it just, like, it was, again, it's pleasant enough, but it is starting to get monotonous, and I think that's probably why you're like, you zone out from the lyrics a little bit, and you're just like, okay, now all I can hear is, like, the things that are annoying me more than anything else, just because it's become very beige.
You get a little ear blind when you start hearing too much of something that's the same.
Yeah.
And as soon as you go ear blind, you're like, I either need someone else, or I need something drastically different, or I have to, like, try to dig in more. And sometimes when you dig, you don't like what you find, and it's just a little unfortunate.
Luckily, we do get that with Ordinary Creature, which might have something to do with exactly how much I like the song, but here we go. Ordinary Creature.
Swimming slow gin, getting lost in the labyrinth. I've been grinning through Easter, like an ordinary creature. Farewell, my dreaded feet. Thank you, but I'm out of here now. I wish I could run to your house when it gets dark out. I wish I could run to your house when it gets dark out.
This is the change of pace I needed at that point in
Yeah.
the album. Like, I needed it so bad. This was my favorite song on the album.
Yeah.
This
was right up there at the top for me.
100%. Like, it starts off upbeat. It doesn't feel like it needs to grow to being upbeat. You get these surfy drums and, like, this just tempo change up. This is a lot more reminiscent to my Head as an Animal as well. Like, this reminded me of old them, like, to a T. This was right there. The playing on the chorus of the high piano notes, like, created a really nice, like, kind of, like, soundscape that I really appreciated. And then you couple it with this cool drum break in the back half of the track. Like, I loved this track. This was a really solid one.
Like you said, it's the upbeat swing that I needed for the album. I love this one, and I thought there were so many neat little moments, and this is where I was like, now I want to see more of this. The lyrical, you know, it's this interplay. You know, you've got the like, I wish I could run to your house when it gets dark out. And then you've got this quickly repeated piano note, like you're running to them.
Yeah.
Or the swimming up the stream to your door. And then you've got this, like, very wet guitar, like, moment that is subdued enough in the track that it sounds like it's underwater. Like, this kind of interplay and creativity is so cool. Even just the, you know, this I wish I could run to your house when it gets dark out, when they're doing these little third steps back and forth, and it almost creates this, like, hemiola effect. So it really is interesting. It really draws you in. Like, there's so much that's so interesting musically happening here. And I was loving it.
Yeah, this
Like,
is
and
a solid
it just
one.
made me go, wow, I wish we had more of that in some of these other songs that I really enjoyed.
Do you
because
want to
this
know
is
where
incredible.
Do you want to know where you can find more of it?
Yeah, where can I find more of it?
2011's My Head as an Animal.
And I know, listen,
that's the whole
everyone yell
album.
at me in the comments. I know I was wrong, right? I know.
Like that's
Like-
where they did all of that.
Yeah.
That whole
And
album is
it
that.
was so cool. It was so well done, you know. And that was, you could really tell that it felt like they were at home in this tune. You know, it felt like they were enjoying, and they were getting, you know, some creative joy out of all these
Yeah.
other songs, but this felt like they were really in, you know.
100%. No, this was my favorite on the whole album. Like, yeah, by like
Yeah.
a decent amount. Then that moves us into Styrofoam Cathedral, which I didn't write too much about, unfortunately. So memorability wise, maybe wasn't all the way there. But let's go ahead. Let's remind ourselves.
Here I go into my styrofoam cathedral, away from the silence and the grocery store. Busy parking lots and teeming floors. Hoping you'll understand, I am honestly flawed.
This was the first time that they really prevalently kind of featured the harmonies, but instead of it being, you know, a higher harmonization, that we've got more of almost like a higher bass harmonization. I
Yeah.
thought that was neat. Would love to have seen some more play with the harmonies again. I like the backing tracks. Like, they feel very lush. They might be a little bit overtuned, or the vocals a little bit undertuned, just balance-wise for me.
Yeah.
I found it, you know, hard to focus on one or the other, which, you know, if that's the goal, then heck yeah, go for it. My biggest complaint, because I thought the lyrics are charming, my biggest issue was I am honestly flawed. I am honestly... It almost sounded like they were trying to chant it like it's like a little mantra, but the spacing on it between each read of the line was just far enough apart that it's not like you were immediately repeating it, but it's like
Yeah.
it was far enough apart that you were wanting us to feel like we were taking a moment to like reflect on that, but you didn't give us enough time. So I just wish like the spacing of that musically was I think a little bit wider, given what I think
Yeah.
they were trying to go for.
I get that.
But overall, like, I thought it was a neat little tune.
Yeah, like I said, obviously Reggie opened up this whole thing with like a way more vocal center on him too, which I appreciated, because generally he's not the center stage on a lot of this stuff. But you got these manic kind of parade drums that I think was a cool look on it.
Oh, yeah.
Again, it's really pretty, but it, in my opinion, it's still really plain. It was still
Yeah.
This is kind of back to the monotony that I got the reprieve from with Ordinary Creature. Kind of
I
fell
think
back
I was
into it.
less upset about it after Ordinary Creature, because it felt like a nice, okay, kind of
I
moment.
was, but I was like,
But-
oh, we're going to go back though, because I was so excited
Yeah.
after Ordinary Creature. I'm like, cool, like maybe we can change and go like this direction, and
very
then it just
fair.
was like, okay, well, no, that was a pit stop. We're gonna go back, and I'm like, oh, well, okay,
Yeah.
all right, sure, and then you kind of keep going from there, and then we get a little bit more reggae as the front and center with the block. So let's listen to this.
Love isn't the calm, no, love isn't the still. Walking with the wind to try and catch a thrill. I can see the steeple brush against the sky. I see the place where we said our goodbye. Yeah, it's a slow, slow break. A high shake. A slow, slow break.
Go ahead.
I like what they did with the piano throughout the piece, except for at the start. It felt like at the start they could have used it more powerfully to kind of lead you into what they were doing. Lyrically, I think they'd really resound with some folks, and I can give it props for that. There are a few moments where I'm like, I kind of feel, you know, like that it resounds with me a little bit. But the chorus overall, not just lyrically, but also musically for me, becomes a little too repetitive. But I also think that might have been intentional based on what they're doing with the lyrics, where they're wanting you to feel kind of that almost stagnation
Feels
a little
blocky.
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't hate it. I think it's interesting artistic choice, and I think it works for what they're going for. I don't know that it makes it my favorite, but I'm not going to fault them for doing what they did with it. Like, this kind of falls, like, middling on the album for me.
What I really like is that this is like a fully like center spot for reggae. I think like his deep sounds are really, really solid for like that folkier vibe.
Oh, so
especially
good.
this time of year. Like, this feels like quintessential
Yeah.
like November folk music. You know what I mean? It's a really deconstructed chorus. I appreciated that a lot. I think that was kind of like the intention, and I think that came out really cool because of how just choppy it was supposed to be. It's supposed to be like the block, you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of the whole point. Blocks are choppy, they're 90-degree angles, you know, like that kind of feeling comes across with the way that they deconstructed the chorus on it. I also just appreciated that this set the song apart from the rest of the album really clearly and plainly, so this didn't feel like that monotony that I've been kind of talking about that's been edging into my mind. This felt like a very big break from it. I liked this little string moment that happened, like kind of going through it. It's, yeah. Again, this provided like a bit of uniquity in what seems to be like a really projectable record so far. So I was a fan of it. This was in my top picks, personally. Just because it gave me some variation. Something a little bit new.
Yeah, I think this ended up being like my 5th on the album. Like, I think it's interesting. It didn't quite crack high enough, but like it was definitely a neat song, you know?
Yeah, I get you. And then that takes us to for sure the most conceptual of all of them, with Mouse Parade. Little fact here for you. So Mouse Parade was actually written. It is a concept track about mice living in an abandoned home in the winter.
Literally?
That's literally, genuinely has never, like, it's a super on the nose. It's,
okay, well.
there's no metaphor in any way, shape, or form.
Okay,
They're just
cool,
like, this
alright.
is what it'd be like to be a mouse in an abandoned home in the winter. So let's listen to
Alright,
Mouse
then.
Parade. Yeah, those are the mice.
I think it's neat for a concept. The lyrics, I was like, I don't know what you're doing here, but all right, man. Like,
Because
sure.
they're mice.
But they were being really. I was like trying. I was like, I don't understand what exactly you're trying to say here, but you know what? If it's very literal, that makes sense.
It's genuinely, it's a mouse parade.
I did really like, and we've talked about this before, I am a sucker for when an album transitions really smoothly between pieces. And I thought that this was a really great transition between the tracks. I thought the start of it, like, just, it really, for me, was, like, just tasty a little bit. It was very haunting when it opened, which was almost a little unsettling, but less so than if we hadn't had the block right before, and that did make me like and appreciate that on the album a lot more, I think. It is very interesting because to me it almost sounds more like a soundtracking sort of a deal than it does even like just a conceptual kind of like soundscape. And there's nothing wrong with that. The first thing for me that came to mind was some of the different sound effects and little experimentation that they had going on was like in Midsommar. A lot of the soundtracking, I heard kind of similar elements in how they played with different strings or with different audio moments that really just felt like it could fit right at home, sans the lyrics in some sort of movie or feature film of some sort. The biggest thing I thought was interesting is that in spite of its very surrealist kind of nature for this piece, they felt it was significant enough to include it as kind of a title track. And that was a very interesting choice to me.
It was, so for me too, like that's one of the things that I specifically have. So obviously you've got this really quiet kind of piano part. It's a really interesting take. Like, it's an interesting song. With nothing else, you can love it, hate it, or however you feel about it. It's super interesting, no matter what. It's obviously incredibly deconstructed. It's pretty, but again, very plain, and just another kind of long, drawn-out outro for a song that didn't have a whole lot to go on to begin with. It's a lot of nothing, but I agree that, like, it almost feels like they wanted to do a conceptual album, and this was going to be the titular track in a full-blown concept album.
And then they just kind of backed off.
They scrapped the rest of the concept. They were like, but we still need to keep Mouse Parade, because that's the
That was,
point.
like, yeah.
That's the name of the album, so we can't get rid of that part. So, like, it falls into that weird, like I said, Icelandic absurdity, where it's just like, there's something weird that I can only assume that I'm missing. You know what I mean? As to, like, maybe I'm missing something on every other track that is tied into this kind of concept that I'm missing. I don't think there is, but, like, it could be. So I'm so intrigued by this track. Wasn't my favorite, probably won't ever be. But I'm just so curious about it.
Well, also, it was one of those things where it brought me back. It brought me all the way back around to Fruit Bat, where I'm like, okay, points for creativity. I think taking the risk and doing something different, and this is very clearly, at least on this album, not what you're doing, what you're used to. Like, I like the creative chance. I like the risk that you're taking.
Yeah.
Pissed me off a little bit that you're not doing that in the song, where you could have done that and it would have been really awesome. But, like, I think it was a fun creative venture. I don't know how I personally feel about it being a whole dedicated, like, full-length track. But I still think it's really... I really like that they took that leap, you know? It feels a little bit weird, but you know what? Why not? I'll buy it.
On an album where everything feels like it's really blended together aggressively, I do agree that, like, yeah, try the experiment, try it. I wish we had more of it in other places. I'm with you on that, and we didn't quite get it, so it feels a little bit too little too late. So now it just felt like an experimental track that, again, had a lot of empty space that wasn't used for a concept that I don't know if that concept really fleshes out throughout the whole album.
Yeah.
And again, it's your title track. So, just an oddity. Just a strange one.
It was a choice, you know?
It might come across differently. Somebody might tell us and just be like, actually, this is what this all means. And I'd be like, I didn't get any of that. Appreciate you telling us. Might appreciate it more. Might appreciate it less, because I don't know. Maybe I don't like the fact that they tried to put that across, and I missed it entirely.
But it's like, I get part of it being empty. If, like, the whole thing is you're a mouse in an abandoned house, like, yeah, it's going to be empty. But there's still stuff that happens. Give me a moment
and they do
or
that
something
with the
to dig into a little.
soundscapism and stuff like that. Like, I think like, that's why you have that, like, aggressive violin and stuff like that, because it sounds like either the moving of, like, all the mouse around here, or even, like, the shaking of the house, because, again, it's wintertime, so it's meant to be kind of quiet. You hear kind of creaks and that kind of stuff here and there of the house, which I really appreciate a lot. Like, they do that. It just seems so absurd.
I wish you played this up across the album. You know?
Yeah, agreed.
Like, make me
Either
go back
do it
and
or
listen
don't do
for
it, but
the
don't-
creaking of the house, and then you've left it, or something, you know?
Exactly. I 100%, I'm with you on that. But that takes us to The End, which is the name of the track, The End. It is, in fact, the last track, but it is still one more song called The End. So let's listen to The End.
Waking up just before the morning news. Someone said the world is ending. Something's kinda falling from the sky. Well, that's alright with me. Such is gravity. Everything around here must come down eventually.
We're back to the vocal harmonies. I like, again, that we're at least doing something different than what we've seen a lot. In that he is now the high line and she's the low line for the harmony. I think that's a fun way to change it up if you're going to continue to do the vocal harmonies. The more acoustic feel, I think, is fun, and that kind of stripping down after we've had our mice running around an abandoned house, and it works for a song titled The End. The guitar really helps kind of propel us forward, but I just wish we had more for this one.
I really enjoy this one. This was the proper send-off that the Mouse Parade was never going to give us. So I'm really glad that it's here. It's a really nice soft spot for like a really fitting ending track, in my opinion. I appreciate it a lot, especially after the emptiness of the last track. This was a redeeming moment for the album for me, because the last couple of tracks I'm like, okay, like we're losing me like quite a bit. This one, like, it felt super traditionally folk, like traditional folk with their harmonies, as opposed to like being kind of soundscapism with the harmonies. Like, this was exactly what I was hoping for on this. You know what I mean? So this was kind of one of the perfect endings. I think it's tacky that they called it The End for the last track. Like, we couldn't think of anything better, another cooler way to do it, but it is the end, and I guess it worked on that side of things. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really pretty. I think they just do a really good job of how their harmonies end up working on it. It's more of just really pretty plain kind of song and songwriting and composition and yada yada yada.
This is for me where I kind of I've hit my limit on just how much of the same thing I can kind of hear. And I do appreciate that they did something different with the harmonies, but it being back to just doing harmonies was kind of okay.
Yeah,
you know.
100%. So how'd you feel in conclusion about the album? The lucky thing is when you're saying I'm done with this, I'm at my breaking point.
Yeah,
like,
is it?
cool,
Is
that's
this done?
perfect, 'cause that was the
Okay.
end.
Yeah. I said overall, I feel like there's just a lot of sameness. A lot of times we're seeing very similar, like, tracking. And we're seeing a lot of similar vocals. We're seeing a lot of similar style across the whole album. There are definitely some standout, incredible songs. But the things that were the same for me were just kind of the same. And, like, nothing is bad. I enjoyed everything. But I just wish that we saw more of the vocal range or talents. I wish that we leaned into allowing songs to be a little bit different. It's okay to have stuff be the same, but by the end, like, looking back across the whole album, a lot of them do feel very similar.
100%.
So overall, I gave it a 6-8.
That's so funny.
Oh, boy.
Like I said, the album was really pretty. It was a pretty typical response of Monsters of Men for their fourth studio album. It did, like, unfortunately, seem like they left a lot on the table and a lot of moments. And I think, like, it made for a lot of monotony and made it feel overall missable. There's nothing unpleasant about the album in any way, shape, or form. It's very much the opposite. Pleasant doesn't necessarily mean that it was something that's great, though. It just wasn't bad. It's not the worst thing in the world, but for me, it's hard to give it too much more attention because of those things. It's not a required listen, in my opinion. But if you're in the mood for something that you can sort of kind of like mindlessly meander through, like the different emotions and stuff like that are coming through, I think it's a fine album for that. You just kind of need to be in the headspace of that's specifically what I'm looking for, is just to wander through somebody else's emotions for an hour. And perfect. This is going to be a great album for you. Enjoy it. Have fun. Just don't expect a whole lot. You know what I mean? Like, if I was to listen to this album again, I was talking to Mel about it. I was like, if I listen to this album again, I don't know if I would take anything more from it. But I would listen to it again.
Yeah.
You know, there's just not a whole lot there. I called it. I also gave it a 6.8.
Hey!
We were in the exact same boat. Because I'm like genuinely,
Yeah.
nothing about it's bad. Some of it's actually good. None of it's really great. And that's kind
Yeah.
of what the 6.8 is for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
But people at home, tell me, did I say their names right? Is there something we're missing about Mouse Parade? Are we right? Are we wrong? Please let us know. It's what we do. We want to hear from you. So make sure you let us know in the comments and tap that subscribe button. But outside of that, that has been another on beat, off script album review of All Is Love and Pain in the Mouse Parade by Of Monsters and Men. Like I said, let us know if we were right or wrong. But I'm Brandito. This is
I'm
Rose.
Rose.
We're gonna catch you on the flip side. Peace out. 3, 2, 1.